Okay, guys, so we are going to begin talking about modal verbs once again. So we talked about it the previous class, like the previous week, and I just want to know what do you remember of modal verbs? Let's begin by the definition, guys. What is a modal verb? What did we say about it? What is a modal verb? Who can tell me? Tell me, Sammy.
Miss, I remember like what is a modal verb, but I don't know like how to explain it, right?
Try to do it. Try to do it. Just give me keywords, things like that. Go ahead. Well, how can you explain? It is.
Well, as
It is.
Juan said, is los verbos de ¿cómo es? Un verbo con modales, but o sea, this is the like the literal traduction, but a modal verb is like a word that you use to represent like you have to or yes that you have to do or something. And for example, is have to, the must, the should, like para expresar como algo que se debería hacer o se debe hacer.
Okay, so modal verbs in these terms are verbs, remember these, are verbs that are going to be with the sentence, and this is going to give like intention to the sentence. This is going to express the mood of the sentence, like the intention or the things you are trying to express or to transmit with that sentence or with those things you are saying. So remember that modal verbs are the category of verbs like auxiliary verbs that are going to exist only in their helping form, okay? They cannot act alone as the main verb in a sentence. Remember that. We have some semi-modal verbs, like for example, have, that we talk about it like the previous class. Remember that have can be on its own and it's going to have meaning. It can be the main verb. But remember that modal verbs in general, like for example, can, could, may, might, all those modal verbs need to be with a main verb. Acuérdense que tienen que estar con un verbo principal. No pueden estar solitos porque solitos no funcionan. Solitos no tienen sentido, ¿ok? So that must be always with a verb. Keep it in mind. So we are going to check today modal verbs. We are going to do it with planets. So today we are going to be in a galaxy. Look at this. Today we are going to be talking about these modal verbs. As you can see, guys, we have like multiple categories. For example, can, it's to talk about possibilities as well as may. But for example, if you talk about must or have to, you are going to be talking about something that is mandatory, obligations. If you talk about could, it can be a possibility too. If you talk about, for example, ought to and should is going to be suggestions. So we are going to be talking about modal verbs and according to its the categories of modal verbs. Okay. So we are going to begin, babies, by taking into account these that we have multiple categories. We have modal verbs of possibility to express that something is possible, modal verbs of ability to express that, for example, you can do something, you have the ability to do something, modal verbs of certainty, that are the modal verbs you use to express that you are super sure about something, modal verbs of advice, to give advices, to give suggestions to someone, modal verbs of obligation, that are the ones we talked about in the previous class, like for example, must and have to, and of course, modal verbs of prohibition like mustn't, as you know, we talked about it in the previous class. And today we are going to check these two again and we are going to talk about the other ones. So I am going to ask you to be super ready to begin. Please don't forget to let me know if you have questions or something like that. Got it? So we are going to begin with this. Let's begin with the planet ability. If you talk about modal verbs of ability, which modal verbs comes to your mind? ¿Qué verbos modales se les vienen a la cabeza de habilidad? Tell me, Sammy.
Maybe can.
Okay, can. Something else? more. So we are going to check because yes, can is one of the most popular ones, but we have more than can. So we are going to begin by talking about can. Tell me, Sammy.
Also, well, as in the presentation says, also the could.
Could. So can and could. Look at this, my dears. You are going to use can and could to talk about abilities. So, for example, we are going to read this first part. So let's go with this part. I am going to ask Sophie, can you please help me reading this first part, the part that says ability?
Yes, Miss. Ability to say someone has or hasn't a particular ability we use.
So guys, when we are talking about abilities, oh my gosh, let me go back. When we are talking about abilities, we are going to express that someone can or can't do something. So in order to do it, we are going to use these modal verbs, can or could. In present, when you are talking about the ability, the possibility of someone doing something, you are going to use can in affirmative or can't in negative. So for example, Sophia can read in a really good way. Or I can say Sophia can't fly or cannot fly. Got it? But what happened in past? In past, my dears, you can also talk about abilities. Okay, so in that case, you are going to use could or couldn't. Got it? So for example, I am going to use Sophia again as example, I'm sorry. So Sophia couldn't read in a really good way when she was 5 years old, but now he can do it. Or you can say, Sophia could dance in a really good way when she was a child. So can and could to talk about ability. Questions up to this point, babies, about can or could? I am going to give you some time to take notes, so don't worry, just pay attention to me. I am going to show you this other part, this other presentation, where I want to express, like, where I am going to show you, like, a bit better the uses of can and could. So we are going to begin with can. The first part is to use can to talk about abilities, but also to talk about possibilities. So I am going to ask Danny, can you please help me reading this slide? Let's begin with the part of ability, possibility. Please read the example.
Okay, they can control their own bullets.
Their own budgets. So they have the ability to control their own budgets. What is the meaning of budget? What is this word? Budget. No one. It is presupuesto. Got it? The next one, Danny, continuing inability or impossibility. In that case, is can't. So go ahead, Danny. The example.
We can't fix it.
We can't fix it. It is not possible for us to fix that because it's really damaged. So can you see that's the other use of can? Let's continue with this one, asking for permission. Go ahead, Danny.
Can I smoke here?
Can I do this? Teacher, can I go to the restroom? Can I watch TV? Can I eat while I am in class? Asking for permission too. And there is another use for can, and it is request. So Danny, the last example.
Can you help me?
Can you help me? I really need your help. Can you do it? You are requesting someone to do something for you. In the case of could, we are going to use it. Also, we have some other uses for could. So I am going to ask Pachito. Let's go with the first one. First use of could.
Okay, asking for permission.
Asking for permission. So you can say, in this case, could you give me the chance to read in class? Could you help me with my homework? No es un puedo.
Or could I read?
Could I read? Like, es más como un venga, por favor, por favor, por favor. ¿Puedo hacer esto? Si tú dices, can you help me? Es como, ¿puedes ayudarme? Si tú dices, could you let me go to the restroom? Porque miren que acá es asking for permission, asking for permission. What's the difference? Este es como puedo hacer esto, este es un podría hacerlo. Por favor, it's like a bit stronger. So as here, can you help me? Could you help me? Let's go with the next use. Pachito, could. For,
For suggestion.
so go ahead. The example.
We could try to fix it ourselves.
So yeah, we could try to fix it ourselves, but maybe this is not going to work. Can you see it's like a suggestion? We could try, but it is not going to be that good. Also, you can use could to talk about future possibilities. So Pachito, attack with the example.
Think we could have another world war.
That's it. So I think we could have another world war. Miren que este could puede ser no solo para hablar de posibilidades, de habilidades, más bien en el pasado, pero también de posibilidades en el futuro. Ya lo vamos a ver un poquito mejor. And ability in the past is the one we were checking. So he gave up his old job so he could work for us. So the use of can, but the most important thing, guys, is this one. Lo que más quiero que se graben en ese momento es este. The use of can and could to talk about ability. An ability is something that someone can or can't do. Okay? So I am not going to ask you to take notes of the other slide. That is just to reinforce this. But the most important thing right now in this class is this one. So now I am going to give you some seconds to take notes. Remember, we are in the planet ability. So modal verbs to talk about ability. Go ahead, take notes. Okay, ready, my dears? Can we continue or no yet? Yes, no, yes, no. Please let me know.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, today you're not going to take that much notes because it is not that long. So the first part, modal verbs of ability, can and could. We are going to check these two examples we have here, and this is in affirmative and in negative. So Juan the baby, can you please help me reading this slide? Let's begin with the first one.
Yes, miss. Francesca can speak 5 languages, but she can't speak Russian.
So that's the first one. Francesca can speak 5 languages, but Russian is not one of those. Okay, so she can do this, but she can't do this. Let's continue with the next part.
As a child, Francesca could play the piano, but she couldn't play the violin.
The
O ¿cómo se pronuncia? Violin.
violin, yes. So look at this. Once again, we can see the use of modal pairs of ability, one in present, one in past. So Francesca can, Francesca can't. But now we are talking about this case in past. So as a child, Francesca could play the piano, but she couldn't play the violin. So can you see? These are two examples that are going to help you identify how to use can, how to use could as a modal verbs of ability. So please take notes of these two. Go ahead. Okay, ready, my dears? Did you take notes of these two examples? Yes? No? Say something. Okay, Pachita?
Something.
Yes, let's continue. So, these are two examples. So, Francesca can, Francesca can't right now, but in the past, Francesca could, Francesca couldn't. What happened, guys, if I want to ask a question? With questions, the use of modal verbs is exactly the same, babies, as in normal questions. Remember the golden rule. With questions, you have to change the order. You have to switch. Acuérdense que con las preguntas cambian el orden, hacen switch. There is going to be something different, okay? So in this case, instead of having subject, modal verb, and main verb, you are going to have the modal verb at the beginning. Van a tener el verbo modal al principio. Okay, so I am going to ask Juan Pablo, baby, can you please help me reading these two questions?
Okay, Miss. Questions. Can you swim? Could you speak when you were 2 years old?
Thank you. So look at this. You have the modal verb at the beginning, then the subject, and then the main verb. So can you swim every day, for example, right now? Or in the past, modal verb, like the subject and main verb. Could you speak when you were 2 years old? In some cases, some of you, for example, this is like the most common example you do, and it is when you are requesting going to the bathroom. So I am going to tell you two things about this. First of all, remember it is not bathroom, it is restroom in the case of the school. Because in the school, you don't have a place to take a shower. It is not a bathroom. You are not taking a bath. You are going to rest your body. So it is just restroom. Keep it in mind. And also some of you say like, teacher, I can go to the bathroom. So no, teacher, can I go? The modal verb is going to be at the very beginning when you are asking questions. So guys, questions up to this point, something to say? So now you have like 30 seconds to take notes and then we are going to continue. Okay, let's continue. So, remember the planet ability, modal verbs of ability. Let's continue, my dears, can and could. Now we are going to go to the planet possibility. When we talk about possibilities, babies, in which modal verbs from the ones you have been learning your entire life, you can think about possibility. Modal verbs to talk about possibility. What do you think about to talk about possibility? ¿Qué se les viene a la cabeza cuando decimos posibilidad? Modal verbs of possibility.
Mm,
Nothing, teacher. Nothing at all. Yeah, nothing?
we,
Okay. So I am going to tell you, don't worry, but please take notes. So the previous ones were ability. Now we are going to talk about possibility. Let's go. When we talk about possibilities, not just abilities, but possibilities, we are going to talk about could, might, and may. Por ¿Por qué no utilizamos can? I mean, can is also used. Digamos que también lo puedes usar para hablar de posibilidades. Es muy común, como vimos ahorita. Pero es mejor si utilizas alguno de estos tres porque el can te va a hablar más de habilidades. Digamos que el can tiene un uso principal, que es hablar de habilidad, y usos secundarios, que es, por ejemplo, una posibilidad. En este caso, estos tres que tienes acá sí son como de uso principal también para posibilidades. So let's check. We have could, might, and may. Possibility in present and in future. Okay? So what is a possibility? To express possibility about the present or the future, we use may, might, or could. So we are going to check the meanings. What is the meaning of could? Ya les dije, could. What is the meaning of that? Tell me, Sammy.
Is can in past.
Is can in past, but what is the meaning? If you want to make the translation, what is that?
¿Puedes?
Kinda.
Pudo,
No.
podría,
Podría. In past is pudo.
Mm,
Podía. In this case is podría. Like a possibility is podría pasar esto. Podría ser así. ¿Podrías ayudarme? Can you see possibilities? What about might? What is the meaning of might? What is
es
that?
como noche pero con M.
Yeah. And what is the meaning of that? Might.
Mochi.
Mochi? No. It's a modal verb of possibility. So it is also podría. Very good, Pachito. También es podría, solo que es un poquito más formal. And what about may? What is the meaning of may? Mayo, yes, es un mes, claro que sí.
La
Y
tía
como,
May.
y como un verbo modal, a ver, may como sustantivo es mayo. May como verbo modal también es poder o podría o ser, pues, algo de posibilidad. Got it? So we are going to check how to use these modal verbs of possibility. But first, take notes of this part. Possibility, I mean, put the titles, don't forget to use multiple colors. Could, might, and may to talk about possibility. Go ahead, 30 seconds to take notes, and then we are going to check the uses.
Profe, ¿puedo poner en vez de May, poner tía May?
Not if you want to talk about a modal verb, but if you're talking in a different context, of course.
Ok.
Okay, ready, my dears? Can we continue or no yet?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, perfect. So let's check the uses of these modal verbs of possibility, my dears. Let's begin here. Possibility. So we are going to check some examples because I guess that you understand better with examples. And I am going to ask Juan Pablo, can you please help me reading these three examples? Let's go with the first one, darling.
Okay. It might be cold outside. You should take a coat.
Thank you. So it might be cold outside. You should take a coat. As you can see here, we are using two modal verbs, might and should. Should as an advice. Este lo vimos la clase pasada. And might of a possibility. Maybe it is not cold outside. Maybe it is super hot. But we have a chance, like a 50% chance. Or maybe if it is raining, of course, it is going to be cold, you know? So it might be cold. It is possible. Juan Pablo, let's go with the second one.
Okay. I may come and visit you next summer.
That's it. I may come and visit you next summer. I am not sure if that is going to happen, but it is a possibility. I may do it. I don't know if I have the time, if I have the money, if I have the chance, I may do it. And what about the last one, Juan Pablo, attack?
It could rain later, so I will take an umbrella with me.
Thank you. So it could rain later, and look at this. Here I am using a future tense, will. As this could happen, I will do this thing. So it could rain later, a possibility. You are not sure if that is going to happen. However, it is possible. So my dears, do you have questions up to this point? We have talked about modal verbs of ability, and right now we are talking about modal verbs of possibility. So questions? Okay, so take some seconds for your notes.
Rains.
Wow, Daniel is flying, but we are going to wait some extra seconds because there are some of you who haven't finished yet. So 30
No,
seconds.
pardon.
Okay, let's continue, my dear. So these are examples, of course, in affirmative and so on. What will happen? Paremos aquí un segundo. What will happen, guys, if I want to make a question? If I want to make a question, I mean, you don't usually ask questions with possibilities. But for example, with could, you could do it. Like, could it rain later? May I come and visit you? So remember, the modal verb is going to be at the beginning, and then the verb, and then the other part. Got it? Let's stop here for a second. Vamos a estar acá parados por un segundo. When you talk about possibilities, and when I show you the other part, I mean can and can't, I told you that you can also talk about possibilities with can. But when you are going to talk about negative possibilities, o sea, algo que no es posible, impossibilities, you are going to use...
¿Puedo decir en eso?
Sí, ya me ayudas, ¿listo? When you are
Ok,
going
profe.
about impossibilities, you are going to use might not or may not. Ustedes acá no tienen forma, amores, de decirlo como lo digo. Como en contracted form. It is not possible. No hay un might, no hay un mayn't, no. Lo ponen con not, ¿listo? So we are going to check this first part. So Nico, go ahead. Please read the first part. Ayúdame a leer este renglón.
A possibility to express the negative we can only use.
May not.
May not, make not can't.
Listo, ahí. Stop for a second. Stop. Look at these babies. ¿Por qué será que nosotros no utilizamos can't? Who can tell me? To talk about possibilities. Can't or cannot is the same. You are not going to use it, babies, because when you use can or can't, you are talking about something that is certain, something you are sure about. Algo de lo que estás súper seguro. Entonces, no lo vas a usar como posibilidad en este caso. Solamente may not and may not. So look at this. We are going to go with this one. You look sick. You might not be very well. It's a possibility. Es una posibilidad. Si tú dices como, no, te ves enfermo, puede que no estés muy bien. Tú no sabes si el que se ve enfermo, sí o sí, sea porque no está bien, o si de pronto porque no durmió bien, o si de pronto solo tiene así la cara. You have no idea. It is a possibility. But when you use this, you look sick, you cannot be very well. that means that you are 100% sure that person is not okay. So for that reason, you are not going to use can't or cannot to talk about possibilities in negative. Got it? Let's check some other examples. I am going to ask Majo Garcia to help me reading. So Majo, can you please help me reading this next example? I might not be.
Okay, Miss. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I may not be home before. How do you say this word?
10 p.m.
10 p.m. So start dinner if you are hungry. Possibility.
So once again, it is a possibility he is not going to arrive. Maybe he arrived, but here is just a possibility. So what about the next example, Princess?
I cannot be home before 10 p.m. So start dinner if you are hungry. Certainty.
Certainty. So in this case, he is 100% sure he won't be at home by that hour. So the difference between may not, might not, and cannot. Questions up to this point, my dears? Something to say, something you don't understand? So now you have some seconds to take notes. Please use colors if possible. Okay, my dears, are you ready or no yet?
No yet.
No yet? Okay, don't worry. Take your time. So, my dears, can we continue? Please let me know if you are ready to continue. Okay, guys, you were in silence, so we are going to continue. Got it? So remember, right now we are talking about modal verbs of possibility, but when you are talking about possibility, like something that is not possible, impossibility, you are going to use may not or might not. Let's continue now with possibility in past. So something that was possible in the past. The most used, the most common one is could. Yeah, in past, you can use could have, might have, or may have. Como podría haber sido posible. Okay, so this is going to be really fast, solo para que tengan la información. No nos vamos a detener acá porque aún no lo vamos a usar, pero es importante que lo sepan. So, esta va a ser volando. So look at this. To express possibility in the past, we use may have, might have, or could have, plus the past participle of the verb. So, it might have been cold outside. You should have taken a coat. Si ven que es como más posibilidades, cosas que si hubiesen sido así, tú tendrías que haber hecho algo. So those are the two. So it might have come and visited you next year. It could have rained later, so I should have taken an umbrella with me. And you see? But we are not going to stop here. Aquí no nos vamos a detener, es solo para que tengan esa información. Que si quiero que tengan claro este y este. ¿Vale? Possibility in present, in affirmative, possibility in present, in negative. So now that we have talked about possibilities, we are going to go to planet certainty. What is this? What is certainty? ¿Qué significa esta palabra? What is the meaning of that? Certainty. What do you understand by that? By that, sorry. No one. Okay, so certainty, guys, is when you are sure about something. Cuando tienes la certeza de algo, la seguridad de que algo es así. So now we are going to talk about modal verbs to express certainty, so that you are sure about it. So in this case, guys, you are going to use, this is like kind of a modal verb of obligation o seguridad. So for example, must and must have. Esta la vimos la clase pasada, así que solo va a ser un recorderis. So we are going to read this slide really fast, and I am going to ask, Samuel, can you please help me reading this slide, darling?
Yes, miss. Well, so must and must have of certainty, present and past. To express certainty, we use must, present, or must have plus past simple, sorry, miss, plus past participle, past, and this is the example, I think. She speaks 7 languages, so she must be very clever. I am certain she's clever. I could smell the food, so it must have been ready. I was certain the food is ready.
Thank you, Sammy. So look at this. La clase pasada, amores, hablamos del must solo como un verbo modal de obligación. You must go to that party. I must leave now. You mustn't use your cell phone in class. Hablamos de eso como obligación y prohibiciones. Pero miren que también se puede usar para hablar de algo de lo que tú estás seguro. Entonces, si esto pasa, debe ser que esta otra cosa es así. So, for example, she speaks 7 languages, so she must be very clever, like intelligent. Sí, si esto es así, posiblemente es por esa razón. I could smell the food, so it must have been ready. It must be ready. Debe estar lista. Seguridad. Okay? In this case, with must and must have. But we also have this, and we are going to stop here to talk about things that are certain in present and in past. So in this case, you are going to be talking about certain things with can't or couldn't, with can't have or couldn't have. Vamos a detenernos en las primeras, que es el can't. Cuando tú estás seguro de que algo no es así, tú vas a utilizar can or can't. So look at this. To express certainty in the negative, we use can't or couldn't in the present, and can't have or couldn't have plus participle in the past. So we are going to check these two examples. Sari, can you please help me reading the first example, princess? This one? Sari? So then, Vero, can you please help me reading this example, baby?
Okay, Miss. You have just had lunch, so you can't be hungry. I am certain that you are not hungry.
That's it. So look at this. You've just had lunch, so you can't be hungry. Tú tienes la seguridad de que esa persona ya no tiene hambre porque ya almorzó. Entonces, vamos a centrarnos en esta. I'm certain that you are not hungry. Cuando tú estás seguro de algo, cuando tienes certezas, vas a utilizar esto. Mark was on holiday, so he couldn't have been coming to the party today. So I was certain that Mark will not be coming to the party. Para hablar de seguridad, de cosas que tienes súper seguras, vas a usar must, it must be like this, o vas a usar can't, it can be like that. En afirmativo must, en negativo can't. So I am going to go back to the previous one and I am going to give you some seconds to take notes and then I am going to show you the next one. So go ahead, now you have time to take notes. Okay, ready with this one, babies, or no yet? Please let me know.
Ready.
Ready? All of you?
Wait a moment, miss, please. 30 seconds.
Okay, just let me know as soon as you're ready, Sally. Okay, my dears. Sammy, are you ready?
Yes, miss.
Okay, so remember, to talk about certainty in present is with must, and in affirmative, and in negative is with can't. Aquí estamos mirándolo en presente y en pasado porque ya ustedes saben cómo usar presente y pasado. pero nos vamos a enfocar más en el presente por el momento. El otro año se les refuerza el pasado. ¿Listo? So go ahead. Take notes of the next part. Ready, babies, or no yet? Ready, or no yet, guys?
Ready.
Ready, miss.
Okay, ready, all of you? Okay, so we are going to continue. If all of you are ready, we are going to continue. Let's go with the next part. Oh, this is important. Don't forget that. It is not mustn't. Okay, this is just for prohibition. Let's continue with advice, planet advice. The previous class we talked a bit about advice and we were talking about should. So my dears, we are going to keep talking about modal verbs we can use to give advices. What is an advice? Who can tell me? What is that? What is an advice? Un aviso, ¿sí? O por ejemplo una sugerencia, un consejo, algo así, que tú le das a otra persona. So, we are going to begin with these ones. The first one we are going to be talking about is should and ought to. So we are going to read this part. I am going to ask, I don't know if Sari is here with me or no yet. Sari, are you there, baby?
Yes, miss.
Okay, princess, so can you please help me reading this slide? Let's begin with the first part.
Okay. To give advice, we use should or ought to. You should buy some new shoes. You ought to go to sleep early. You look tired.
Okay, let's just stop there for a second. The previous class we talked about should. So what did we say about should? What is should? What is the meaning of should? What is the meaning of should, guys?
Debería, creo que era.
Deberías, tú deberías hacer esto. And what happened then with ought to? What is the meaning of ought to? What is that?
No es lo mismo.
It's exactly the same, deberías. So you can use should, you can use ought to independently, and it is going to be the same. Sometimes, some people believe that ought to is kind of formal. It's more formal than should. But you can use both and there is not going to be problem, okay? So you should buy some new shoes. You ought to go to sleep early. You look tired. Let's continue, Sari, the next part. In the negative, go ahead.
In the negative, show, chosen is more common than ought to.
So, when you are saying like, I mean, giving like you shouldn't do this, no deberías hacer eso, es más común que encuentres el shouldn't que el oughtn't. It is not that common. So guys, just use shouldn't. So sorry, let's read the two examples. The example and then questions.
Okay. You shouldn't speak so quick. To form questions, should is more common than ought to. Should I buy some new shoes?
That's it. So look at this. In the negative, you shouldn't speak so quickly. Guys, you shouldn't be talking when I am in class. You shouldn't sleep late because you have to wake up early. You shouldn't do multiple things. But what happened in questions? In questions, my dears, once again, should is more common than ought to. So, for example, should I buy some new shoes? Should I visit the doctor? Should I go to the church? And you see? So, ought to, babies, is a modal verb you can use to give advices, to give suggestions, and so on. But the common one, the most popular one, is going to be should. So, questions up to this point, babies? Something to say? So, now you have some seconds to take notes. Go ahead. Ready, babies, or no yet? Please let me know. Ready, guys, or no yet? Please let me know. So, Pachito is ready. What about the others? Okay, so let's continue. So, guys, modal verbs of advice. And you can also use must. I mean, must is like multi-use because you can use it mostly to give to talk about obligation and something that is mandatory, but also it can be used to give strong advices para decir algo que tienes que hacer, pero lo estás haciendo casi como una obligación. Lo estás diciendo casi como una obligación. So, for example, you must be careful if you are traveling alone. You must drink alcohol responsibly. Si se dan cuenta, esto alcanza a rozar el límite de la obligación moral. Lo que hablábamos la clase pasada, es obligación y tiene que ser así porque yo decido que debe ser así. So in this case, you can talk about advices or something that is mandatory because you are deciding this is mandatory. So questions up to this point, babies? This one was something we talked about the previous class, so questions up to this one? So go ahead, guys. Please take notes, 30 seconds. Okay, let's continue, babies. We are about to finish. Modal verbs of advice. And finally, we are going to talk about this really fast because we talked about this the previous class. So, modal verbs of obligation. Who can remind me the two modal verbs we talked about the previous class? Who can tell me? What did we use to talk about obligation? Sammy, attack.
They must and they have to.
Must and have to. Very good, very good. Remember, guys, this. We are going to use must and have to talk about obligation. We use must, guys, to express a strong obligation, guys, but that must, remember, it is going to be used when you are going to talk about more things like that are mandatory because you have decided it is like that. It is more like a personal obligation. Look at this. When we use must, this usually means that some personal circumstance makes the obligation necessary. So, for example, I must go to bed earlier. They must do something about it. You must come and see us sometime. My gosh. Can you see? So, it is almost certainly agrees with the obligation. Esto es algo que cambia que les doy de más. Cuando tú utilizas el must, se los repito, para hablar de obligaciones, es porque tú lo estás decidiendo así, es una obligación moral, y casi que tú directamente estás aceptando eso como una obligación. Tú estás diciendo, tiene que ser así, y así lo haces. Okay? And the other one we talk about was have to. Have to talk about obligation. So look at this. We can also use have to express a strong obligation, but what is the difference, guys? That with have to, you are going to use external circumstances. Lo que hablábamos, con must es porque tú lo decides, con have to es porque alguien más o algo más, una circunstancia externa, una regla, la ley, por ejemplo, te está diciendo que tiene que ser así, like rules, laws, and so on. Got it? So let's check the examples we have to really fast. I am going to ask you, Danny, can you please help me reading these examples? Go ahead.
Okay. We can also use have to express a external obligation. When we use have to, this usually means that some external circumstance makes the obligation necessary. I have to arrive at work at 9 sharp. My boss is very strict. We have to give him our answer today or lose out the contract. You have to pass your exam or the university will not accept you. I have to send a report to to head office every week. Sorry for the
Done.
eh,
As you can see, babies, all of these examples are showing you something that is mandatory because you have like an external thing that is making it mandatory. So I have to arrive at work at 9 sharp. That means like at 9 o'clock. Why? Because your boss is strict, because you have a rule, because your contract says that. Can you see? The next one, we have to give him our answer because if you don't, you are going to lose a contract. So you have a contract that is limiting you in this case. For example, you have to pass your exams. For example, at the school, in this case, the example is with university. But for example, at the school, if you don't pass your exams, you are not going to be able to have good results. And if you lose all your exams on the entire year, that means you are not going to be able to go to ninth grade. Can you see? Or I have to send a report to the head office every week. Why? Because the head office is the leader and that's a rule we have. So, my dears, questions up to this point? Something to say about modal verbs? Something you don't understand? ¿No? No les dejo ahí tiempo porque esto ya lo tienen, es solo un recorderis. En Planet Prohibition, who can tell me how do you make prohibitions? How do you talk about prohibitions? ¿Cómo dices que algo es prohibido? Tienes dos formas de hacerlo, ya vimos una. ¿Cuál era? Tú no puedes irte de la casa, tú no puedes usar el celular en clase. Ok, can't es una forma, prohibido. ¿Y cuál era la otra? ¿Cuál fue la que vimos la semana pasada? Prohibitions. Check your notes. What's the other one? Mustn't. Perfect. Remember, guys, mustn't is the one we talk about. So we are going to check. Clearly, with prohibition, we are going to use can't or mustn't. Can't or mustn't. So we are going to stop and we are going to read this one because we have talked about mustn't to talk about prohibitions, but we haven't talked about can't. So we are going to do it. Pachito, can you please help me reading this slide, baby?
Okay, miss. To express prohibition, we use can't or mustn't. You can't park here, sir. ¿Me sigo o las veo todas de...?
Yes, continue and then we are going to...
You can wear jeans, but you can't wear trainers in that bar. You mustn't speak when the teacher is speaking. Can't tell us that something is against the rules. Mustn't is usually used when the obligations come from the person who is speaking.
Thank you. So look at these, guys. Can and mustn't are going to be used to talk about prohibition, but we have some differences between mustn't, and can't. What's the main difference? That can't is going to tell us that something goes against the rules, against the law. So for example, this one, you can wear jeans, but you can't wear trainers in that bar or in that place. Can you see? Puedes hacer esto, pero no puedes hacer esto. Este can't va en contra de las reglas. But what happened with mustn't? Mustn't is usually something that is a prohibition because someone else is telling you that. For example, at the school, the teacher, you mustn't use your cell phone in class. Why? Because I am the teacher and I am saying this is mandatory in my class, and in my class you mustn't use the cell phone. That's the difference. One goes against the rules, the other one is usually used when the obligation comes from the person who is speaking. So, my dears, do you have questions up to this point? However, you can use both. Igual, pueden usar las dos para hablar de prohibición. Teacher, I can't go there because I have to do something else. Or teacher, I mustn't do that. My parents are telling me that I mustn't do that. So both of these to talk about prohibition. So my dears, to finish the class, we are going to check these ones. And I am going to give you some seconds to take notes. Remember, guys, notes are important for you. Go ahead. Okay, babies, are you ready or no yet? Ready, guys? Yes, no? I have some. Ready or not? We are about to finish, my dears. This is the last part. Ready, ready? Okay, let's continue. Let's continue because you are super quiet. The class is almost over. So, be careful with these, guys. Don't use don't have to express prohibition, okay? Don't have to is not for prohibition. You mustn't use your mobile phone here. It's like a prohibition. But if you say you don't have to use your mobile phone here, it is not necessary. So if you use don't have to, you are saying that it is not necessary, but if you want, you can do it. So be careful with this. And finally, my dears, is this don't use mustn't in the past because it is not possible. Para el pasado decimos otra cosa como not allowed to, but mustn't is just for the present or things that are forbidden right now. So babies, tell me questions about the modal verbs we have talked about. Something to say? So my dears, I'm going to stop the recording of the class right now.